Christmas is a time for reminiscing, and for me that means talking and reminiscing about video games. Exactly 30 years ago, my stepsister introduced me to the Sega Mega Drive Model 1, and in this episode I'm going to take you on a journey with me and explain to you exactly what I felt, the games that we played, and what actually happened from there on in. So if you're like me and you love everything nostalgic about your childhoods, retro game hunting, you name it, I would urge you to enjoy this episode and make sure you subscribe. Let's roll the intro. So here in Britain, it was, well, at least in my family, it was very common to get up early on Christmas morning, tear off the paper of the presents, and then the kids to stay in the living room for a good few hours while the adults went back to bed for a couple of hours. And that meant us playing with the various toys that we had, maybe sampling sitting on a new bike, which for me I got in 1991. I got a bike and I leant it up against the sofa and I would just sit on the seat eating many chocolate bars from my selection box. And that was pretty much the scene for Christmas 1991. There was myself, my stepsister Carla, and my brother Scott, who I've asked to contribute to this video, but he happens to be too busy. Thank you, Scott. And then it was maybe well into the afternoon, so we'd kind of played with all the toys, we'd eaten Christmas dinner, and I think the adults had actually gone back to bed, and there was a knock on the door. Now I stayed in the living room because I knew it was my stepsister's dad, and I didn't know, I'd never met him, I didn't know what she was bound to get, but actually when she came back in the living room, she came back in with the Sega Mega Drive, that white gridded box packed in with Altered Beast and another game to be able to play on the system. And it kind of seemed like all of the toys in the living room at that point became completely null and void. Everything didn't matter anymore because we had the Sega Mega Drive.
Somewhere on planet Earth, a scientist creates the ultimate machine.
At last!
A machine that will give him the power to journey into the Mega World. With thousands of colors, 16-bit graphic technology, and 10-channel mega stereo sound. The most advanced video game system in the universe.
Yes!
Mega Drive from Sega.
So we ran upstairs and I had a 14-inch small, it was a black CRT TV that I used to play my ZX Spectrum on with a little bit of Horace Goes Skiing. And I remember us, we were ripping that box. I mean, it had rips in it, tears in it. God forbid I do that with any of these nowadays. I think it's rather cringeworthy to actually think back. But we set up that Sega Mega Drive, and for the very first time, I had my first experience with what was then a next generation powerful console, the Sega Mega Drive.
The 16-bit microprocessor allows for enhanced graphics, more memory capability, stereo sound, depth perception, simulated 3D. You now have a game that is richly enhanced, a game that is very similar to that you would find in the arcade.
Night Court's Harry Ann.
And it was Altered Beast that we all first played. We played it one player, we played it two player. We absolutely loved that game, and believe it or not, it didn't feel as difficult as what it feels now back then. And we played and played and played, and we thoroughly enjoyed what is one of the Sega Mega Drive's classic video games.
Rise from your grave. Welcome to your doom.
So as if that wasn't enough for us, it was time to embark on Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. And obviously being familiar with his music back then, to be able to hear it in a 16-bit chiptune format really made such a terrific impact on me and how I felt about video games. And I can still feel that memory as if it was like yesterday, when even, you know, it was 30 years ago. I can still feel it right now. And I remember Michael Jackson opening that door on that first level, stepping in, spinning and kicking his leg, and the coin flying into the jukebox. And it really did change me. Michael! We played and played and played that game non-stop, absolutely non-stop. But on the first level, I remember getting incredibly stuck because I didn't know how to get from the ground floor up to that first floor. And you had to knock down the steps. And I didn't realise it, but I was pressing left and right on the D-pad trying to ascend these stairs. And I just couldn't get there. But remember, this was my first console gaming experience, and little did I know the joys of a D-pad actually had directional buttons on them. So what was I doing wrong? It wasn't left or right to go up the stairs. That would just move Michael left or right. I needed to press diagonal to be able to get up the stairs, to get to that first floor, to continue to rescue whoever it was I was rescuing and kill all the bad guys, which really did solidify my joy in entertainment in Christmas 1991. So that game, Moonwalker, continued probably more than what we played Ultra Beast over and over again. But then something else happened. And this was probably more important and more significant than what it was when I first played and heard Moonwalker. And that game was Sonic the Hedgehog.
Once you start playing Sonic the Hedgehog, everything else seems a little bit slow. Don't worry, I'll catch him.
That game changed so much about the video game industry at the time. It was Sonic was the mascot of Sega, not just the Sega Mega Drive, because obviously we had Sega Dreamcast iterations of Sonic later down the line. Today, Sonic is still a huge franchise. In fact, I got a new Sonic game this Christmas 2021. So 30 years later, I am still enjoying the blue hedgehog as we know him. But back then, Sonic, we went to Toys R Us in Derby, and my stepsister Carla had some cash as part of her Christmas box as well. And if I remember correctly, going into Toys R Us, seeing all the end stands, seeing all the aisles packed full of Sega Mega Drive games and Master System games, and at the time NES games, it was magical.
There's a magical place, we're on our way there, with toys in the millions all under one roof. It's called Toys R Us.
from Sega the Mega Drive with Sonic the Hedgehog game. 16-bit console which plays over 100 exciting high-tech games with high-quality graphics. Toys R Us price $126.94.
There's millions such Jeffrey all under one roof. It's called Toys R Us, Toys R Us, Toys R Us.
I mean, nothing will compare. Arguably, that was my first retro game hunt. Christmas 1991, and she purchased Sonic the Hedgehog. And I remember after that, getting in the car and really wanting to go home. And my dad had a Ford Cortina at the time, and I wanted to go home so badly and put that cartridge into the Sega Mega Drive and play Sonic the Hedgehog. But what we did is we went to, this was very common back in the early 90s, we went to what's called a social club or an old miners' welfare. If you're in North America, just think of it as a poor man's pub, if you would. And the kids went off into the arcade room, the parents went off into the alcohol side where the kids were very rarely allowed to venture. But when I did go into that room, I made a point to get that game in my hands, pop open the case and try to leaf through that gaming manual to get a sample of Sonic the Hedgehog before I was allowed to go home and play it. And it wasn't even my game, it was my stepsister's game. So I was like, whoa, I kind of felt almost like I was doing something wrong, like stealing somebody's property, prying open that video game case, taking out the cartridge, looking at that box art. Whew. And guess what? When we went home, we played the game, and we played it so in much that when we went to bed and closed our eyes, you could still see I saw rings spinning in my mind's eye for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And I remember telling my dad, every time I close my eyes I can see these rings. Well, you shouldn't bloody play that game too much then, should you? He wasn't a gamer, let's just say that. And he's not a gamer now, my dad isn't. But me, Carla and Scott sat in my bedroom. It was a pink Care Bear themed bedroom. In front of that 14-inch black CRT TV on top of a brown chest of drawers. There were 5 drawers, and we played the hell out of Sonic 1. And that, guys, was our Christmas 1991. Powerful stuff is nostalgia. And powerful stuff are all of these games in this room and in the Lady Loft. And I love it. And I'm so happy to be stood here at level 38, still talking about it, still embracing it, and still sharing it with my audience. So there's loads more to come, whether you like your retro game hunts, retro game thrifting, stories like this, series of unboxings, whatever it is you like. I can guarantee you'll find it here. Thank you for watching this. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the next episode. I need a few seconds of your time to tell you about channel memberships. If you guys want to become a channel member, click join from the main page or the second link in the description. There are 3 tiers, all with different perks for you if you want to become a team member. Thanks for your time. Let's continue with the video.